Hello there, Reject Nation. I'm Greg Alba.
And I'm John Humphrey.
We are going to watch from New Rockstars, one of my favorite YouTube channels in the world today, Star Wars Timeline, new timeline explained, Kevin Feige film confirmed. I suppose since there's all these like Disney Plus announcements with the new shows, Mandalorian, Star Wars movies, of course, Kevin Feige. Got a whole lot to break down. This is a top reward tier video request from a man named Mikhail Linden. So let's get into it.
Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Eric Voss. In the Star Wars universe, we'll now have Marvel head Kevin Feige developing a future film, making even denser the already packed Star Wars timeline, with upcoming properties like the Mandalorian series on Disney Plus Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker, plus announced series for Obi-Wan Kenobi, Cassian Andor, other projects in development. I feel like we are in desperate need of an update to the Star Wars canonical chronology, and we got it explained for us. So I'm gonna stick to the big events that are relevant to these new properties, so I may not catalog every canonical burp from Ahsoka Tano, though I'm sure
Damn it.
are awesome. Okay,
Fake
the Star Wars
nerd.
timeline doesn't go by years the way we mark our years by revolutions of the Earth around the sun, with a calendar that uses the birth of Christ as year zero, or for some of you, I'm sure, a Mayan calendar where the world ended 7 years ago. And of course, all the Star Wars history takes place a long
that how
time
we
ago.
used-
So for simplicity's sake, we're applying Earth years to arguably the biggest event in the Star Wars history that we care about, the destruction of the first Death Star in the Battle of Yavin. So we're going to use that as our birth of Christ year zero. Before zero will be BBY, before Battle of Yavin, and after zero will be ABY, after Battle of Yavin. Okay, so we can rewind all the way back to the dawn of this fictional universe. According to Star Wars lore, it all started with a so-called wellspring of life, a forest planet from which midichlorians originated. Sometime after this, ancestral beings invented hyperspace travel. The Prime Jedi established the Jedi Order in the first Jedi Temple on Ahch-2, and a dark faction of the Jedi broke off to eventually form the Sith, and that brings us to the age of the Old Republic, which was formed with its capital on Coruscant, and the temple on Jedha in Rogue One was built. 5,000 years before the Battle of Yavin, that great temple was built on Yavin 4, and then a 1,000-year war between the Jedi and the Mandalorians, the Warriors of Mandalore, began. This war would eventually ravage the surface of Mandalore, force its people to live in these domed cities, but really destroy the Mandalorians, scattering them across the galaxy, and leading to one of them being the star of the Mandalorian coming up on Disney Plus. But that's thousands of years later. But then we come upon the period of the Knights of the Old Republic. That is planned to be a trilogy of movies based on the popular game, and at least the first movie of which will be written by the Game of Thrones showrunners Benioff and Weiss. So jumping ahead
Still
later,
happening?
about 1,000 years before the Battle of Yavin, when the Old Republic transitions to the Republic governed by the Galactic Senate. Like the Roman Republic, and these days it seems all democratic forms of government, this Senate collapsed under the weight of corruption, which brings us to the events of Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. You know the story here. Anakin Skywalker is discovered by the Jedi on Tatooine. There's an epic fight with Darth Maul, and the political drama between Naboo and the Trade Federation ascends Sheev Palpatine to Supreme Chancellor of the Senate, or as he was telling himself in the mirror those days,
I am the Senate.
So 10 years later were the events of Attack of the Clones, in which war breaks out between the Separatists of Count Dooku and the Clone Trooper Army of the Republic, which was actually a war manufactured from
Sometimes
both
I can't
sides
tell
by
what's the
Palpatine
cartoon and what's the
Darth
CGI.
Around this time is when the events of Star Wars The Clone Wars is set, both the movie and the series, in which Anakin and Obi-Wan are joined by Ahsoka Tano. The series is also known for resurrecting Maul. And shortly after this, construction of the Death Star begins on Geonosis, with plans for it seen in Attack of the Clones. 2 years later are the events of Revenge of the Sith, when the Empire comes into form. Palpatine reveals himself to Anakin, corrupts him into Darth Vader, and gives Order 66. Killing most of the Jedi, Luke and Leia are born, Padme dies, and Yoda and Obi-Wan go into exile. And then, 8 years after that, will be the events of the upcoming Obi-Wan Kenobi series. I don't know much about what it will be about, but Obi-Wan will be on Tatooine at this time, and since Maul is active, the two might have an awesome rematch.
Doubt it.
A year after these events is the setting
Get Ray
for
Park
Solo,
back.
a Star Wars story, which introduced Han Solo to Chewbacca and Lando Calrissian, in a story that brushed them past Maul, though they didn't know it. Then, 5 years after that, start the events of the animated series Star Wars Rebels, following Kanan Jarrus and others in their missions against the Empire. Also during this era
is
will be
actually
the events
really
of the Cassian
helpful.
Andor series, a prequel series to Rogue One, following the Diego Luna spy character for that movie. And that brings us to our year zero, starting with the events of Rogue One. Jyn Erso and Cassian Andor lead the mission to steal the Death Star schematics from Scarif, leading to a battle and a very close call with Darth Vader. This narrative flows neatly into the events of the very first Star Wars film, 1977. Again, we all know the story here. Luke Skywalker, Obi-Wan, Han, Chewie, all 3 free Leia and use the Death Star plans to blow it up in the Battle of Yavin, the key turning point in the Galactic Civil War. So now we're in the after the Battle of Yavin years, ABY, and 3 years after this are the events of The Empire Strikes Back, the Battle of Hoth, Luke's training with Yoda on Dagobah, and all the drama on Cloud City with Lando and Vader that freezes Han and Carbonite. Another year passes until the events of Return of the Jedi, Han's rescue in the Battle of Endor, which leads to the deaths of Palpatine and Vader and the destruction of the second Death Star and the beginning of the end for the Empire and the formation of the New Republic. But the Empire is still not dead yet. Palpatine has posthumously ordered Operation Cinder, ordering all remnants of the Imperial Navy to basically burn everything
video
down.
games.
This culminates in the Battle of Jakku, which marks the final defeat of the Empire. Some Imperial officers do end up escaping, and they form the roots of what is known as the First Order. Now, a few years later will be the events of The Mandalorian on Disney Plus, following Pedro Pascal's
read every book
in the ruins of the Empire, and it sounds like this series will shed some light on the rise of the First Order. Now, over the next few decades, the New Republic rules, but the First Order is rising, led by Snoke. Ben Solo departs from his training under Luke and joins the First Order as Kylo Ren. Also, the animated series Star Wars Resistance is beginning during this time. All this leads to the events of The Force Awakens, in which the First Order uses Starkiller Base to destroy Hosnian Prime and several other planets, but Rey, our new hero, unites with Finn, Han, Chewie, BB-8, and the Resistance led by Leia and including Ace, Pilot, Poe Dameron to destroy Starkiller Base and follow a star map to long-lost Luke over on Auch 2. And the events of The Last Jedi take place immediately after this. By the end of it all, Luke and Snoke are dead. Add that to the pile of bodies of Han from The Force Awakens, and the Resistance is nearly wiped out. And then technically, the Disney attraction Star Wars Galaxy's Edge is set after the Battle of Krayt in The Last Jedi, with the Falcon now parked at the Blackspire Outpost on Batuu in the Outer Rim. And then, 1 year after The Last Jedi,
Galaxy's
will be the
Edge
events of the
is
upcoming
canon.
Rise of Skywalker. Kylo, now running the First Order, and it seems Rey encountering the ruins of the second Death Star, and somehow the return of Palpatine. Beyond that, we know The Last Jedi director Rian Johnson is developing a trilogy of films that might be set in a future beyond, maybe following that young stable boy on Canto Bight, and Kevin Feige's Star Wars movie could be set at any point. All we really know at this point is that he has approached one big name actor to play a certain character.
Brie Larson. Everyone knows Brie Larson.
So which character do you think Feige's Star Wars movie will follow? Donald Glover as Lando? A live-action Ahsoka Tano film? Comment down below with your thoughts. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at EABoss, and subscribe to New Rockstars for breakdowns of everything Star Wars. Thank you for joining me. And if Feige is working on an Ahsoka Tano movie, I feel like a burping contest needs to be part of the casting process.
Well, Tom Holland's gonna play Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, of course. He's the perfect match for you know, Mark Hamill. This video explained a lot of things to me, but you know what it didn't explain? Why are they called the First Order? They seem like, you know, like another order very similar to the orders previous.
John,
Yeah?
it's pretty clear.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Don't worry, Star Wars fans, I got your back. Well, guys, if you haven't subscribed to New Rockstars yet, you should make sure to do that right away. One thing this video has done, I've never really been too inclined to check out the TV shows other than the fact that I feel left out and that it seems like some of the movies and shows are going to be riffing on things that were established in other TV shows like Clone Wars and Rebels. I forgot all about Resistance until they brought it up here. I was like, oh yeah, there's that show, yeah.
Well, aren't there like two? There was another Rebels show too that I saw. I think a Mr. Sunday movies about it.
Clone Wars, not the Clone Wars.
Done by Jendy Tartakovsky, who did like Dexter's Laboratory and Samurai Jack. So there's like a hand-drawn one too. Especially in the new age of Star Wars, one thing I have come to appreciate, even though I have such little experience with it, is the expanded universe. Even though it can be frustrating and in some ways inhibiting to stick so closely to a canon. At the same time, the canon is so broad, and like watching this video, I was like, wow, this is kind of like a history of an actual place, like Lord of the Rings, you know?
Yeah.
Where it's like so detailed, and there's so many events and so many characters who have appeared in live-action movies, and I had no idea they were in a cartoon. Or there were more stories about them.
Yeah, and that's where the overwhelming aspect of it comes in. But what I really love about this video is I now feel like I can actually, if I decide to, which I think I just might, maybe after Rise, that way I have time to do it, because Mandalorian will come out in November, and then Rise of Skywalker in December. I think I will go ahead and just start the franchise in chronological order based off this timeline established here.
Everything.
Yeah, and I think I could, if I just start from there, some people ask us to react to it. I'm like, if we take time to react and edit those videos, I won't ever get it done. So it's going to take too long of a
When
journey.
we can hire 3 editors.
Yeah, I'll probably start it in the order of what they establish here with the TV shows and whatnot, and then move into the movie. I feel like that'd be actually a really interesting, unique experience. I don't know anyone who's done that.
Yeah, it's like a totally, it's, I guess, a fragmented story, but yeah, it's keeping a large connected thing going over multimedia, which is really,
Yeah.
it is really cool.
But he didn't go into the books. He
I
didn't
know.
go into the comics.
Well, because what are they going to do? Are they going to, like, zoom in on text, and,
Yeah.
like, swipe in
Yeah.
an illustration somewhere?
Well, they could have.
Books, man, that's old technology.
They could have talked about the wills.
They could have talked about the wills.
How Rise of Skywalker is going to end in a microbiotic world, and we're going to discover that the universe is really controlled by these beings that feed off the Force.
Yeah, this video should have started before the Force planet even was a thing, Like,
That's the real beginning
Yeah.
of it, is George Lucas's wills.
birth. George Lucas's birth should have been at the beginning.
That would have been great.
Because the actual twist at the end is going to be that all these little microbiotic worlds are just inside of his head.
I wonder
It's going to
how-
be a big metaphor for creativity.
I wonder if George Lucas sometimes sits back and hears stuff. He's like, "What the hell are you guys talking about?"
Yeah.
What is this?
I would imagine that George Lucas has a fascinating life because it's clear that he's not the most thrilled about what Star Wars is doing right now, and also there's so much conjecture and fan feedback that I am fascinated by
Yeah.
how he perceives the public opinions of Star Wars now.
I've noticed that the ones who really follow like the TV shows and such are usually the ones who really can't get on board with The Last Jedi.
Yes. Yeah.
I saw the Clone Wars movie when it first came out. I barely remember it. All I remember is like the cool last fight that Anakin Skywalker has at the end of it. I've seen all the movies, obviously. So I wonder if by doing this experience, because I'm a defender of The Last Jedi.
Oh, you're going to hate it now.
If I do the whole chronological experience and then I go to Last Jedi, and I'm like, this isn't Star Wars at all. Ryan Johnson ruined everything. Which, by the way, bringing that up, I think it's totally canned. I don't think it's gonna happen.
There's still
the whole
time.
thing with Ryan Johnson being like, yeah, just figure it out, time, schedule, they're working on this. To me, it just sounds like media talk, so that way they could eventually get to a point after Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, where they can
be like, yeah, we're not doing it.
Yeah.
It's canceled.
Yeah,
the
true.
Benioff and Weiss one too. I feel like that's gonna get canned as well.
Or turned into one movie, and we'll see. Because that's the other thing too, is they announce these as we're giving you a trilogy and we're giving them a trilogy, and that just seemed gung ho, kind of foolhardy.
And with Bob Iger's memoir talking about how he felt that they launched too much at once and tried throwing us into a multi-cinematic
They did
universe.
what so many other people have tried to do, and it's ironic that they should do it from within Disney.
Yeah.
You know?
Doing the movie cinematic universe, I can actually see why they have a little bit more difficulty branching out and doing these other types of things. It's like when you expand the universe within different mediums, comics, shows, those are the main medium of games. If you expand in that way, that makes perfect sense to me. I think where they have struggled with the movies specifically, people always go, how come Marvel can do it but Star Wars can't? I mean, Star Wars is a galaxy far, far away. It's this huge galaxy, so it seems like you should be able to do it. I think where the issue comes in, they didn't start off the MCU with Iron Man 1, 2, and 3 and then go forward with other characters. It was immediately established. There's Iron Man, and then in this same universe, there's also the Hulk, and then in this same universe, there's also Thor. Whereas Star Wars started off with Luke, Han, Leia, Vader, Luke, Han, Leia, Vader, Luke, Han, Leia, Vader. Let's go back, and how we got to Vader. The way this franchise, the Star Wars franchise, has been established is with these specific characters. I actually get why the movies have a harder time truly expanding a cinematic universe, but the universe's expansion seems to really work in the form of other mediums that connect to the movies.
I feel like when you approach it from a sense of expanding the Star Wars universe itself, like treating the Star Wars universe as the main core aspect instead of these three characters that kind of drive everything. Because, yeah, exactly. There's so much more to Star Wars than the Skywalker saga, as it seems like all the other media has helped to prove. And that's the thing. You also see these fan films popping up that are legitimately really cool. And they're made by people who are passionate about the extended Star Wars canon. And so it does make you think, I wonder if I were to do the same thing, would I come out of The Last Jedi being like, oh, I get it? Or would I still be looking for a change? Because, yeah, the new Star Wars, The Mandalorian, things like that are especially exciting because they look a bit different.
Yeah,
You know?
I've been hesitant to start the shows because a lot of that feeling does come in with where do I begin? I could just watch it in release date order. When you got such a complex timeline, I feel like watching it in timeline order would actually be more beneficial.
Yeah, if you're going for the pure academia of it, you
Yeah.
want to get everything in order, I feel like that's the smartest. If you're going just as like you need an entry point, I feel like if there was a recommendation of like, check this one out because this will be a great primer to pull you in and then, you know, commit.
Yeah. Either way, I did love this video.
I'm going to watch this every day until the new Skywalker movie.
All right, guys. Thank you, new Rockstars. You guys can subscribe to The Real Rejects. Click that notification bell. And Mikhail, thanks for recommending this video to us, buddy. So, Mikhail, I tend to mention the same dumb stuff about Mikhail.
Mikhail, your
Irrelevant.
name means this.
History. It's not important. What is important about Mikhail is that he actually loves a variety of sports. You know, he's actually a huge NHL fan. Hockey.
Oh, yeah.
That's what NHL is for.
Yeah.
Not National Hot Dog League, as I first thought.
But that is a compelling sport as well. Mikhail, have you ever watched a hot dog eating contest?
His favorite team, I don't know if this is a team, the Colorado Avalanche.
I believe so.
And there's the SHL, the Swedish Hockey League, where he's not from. He's not from Sweden.
These are very niche interests.
Yes. And he also likes to play soccer, and he's
Oh,
very
damn.
into motorsports.
Whoa, soccer. You mean football, right?
No, he means soccer.
Football.
He means soccer.
Oh, yeah, that's right. He's not in Sweden.
More importantly, he's Swedish.
What? I've been lied to this whole time.
Sorry, Mikhail, I can't go a shout out without mentioning you're from Sweden and that you like James Bond.
That's your thing.
That's who you are. That's your whole identity.
That's
When we meet in
everything
person,
about
I'm
you.
gonna be like, tell me more about your country and what'd you
Swedish.
think of the latest
James Bond Swedish.